Can artificial intelligence save lives at the same moment global hunger reaches record highs? This year, 318 million people across 68 countries face acute food insecurity, nearly triple the number recorded just 5 years ago. At a major AI summit in India, billion-dollar technology deals promise transformation. Yet, the world's largest food aid agency is confronting a funding collapse. This video examines the widening gap between technological acceleration and humanitarian contraction, and what it means for global stability. If this imbalance deepens, the consequences extend far beyond missed meals. When food systems fail at scale, migration pressures intensify, political instability rises, and conflict risk increases. Conversely, if new technologies meaningfully improve efficiency, limited resources could stretch further, potentially preventing famine conditions in fragile states. The intersection of artificial intelligence and food security is not symbolic. It directly influences mortality rates, regional security, and the credibility of international institutions. The World Food Programme operates in some of the most volatile environments on Earth. Established in 1961, it has evolved into the largest humanitarian organization focused on hunger relief, coordinating logistics across conflict zones, climate disaster regions, and economically distressed countries. Its operational model depends on voluntary contributions from member states, with the United States historically serving as its largest donor. That funding structure makes the agency highly sensitive to geopolitical shifts and domestic political decisions within donor countries. The current crisis reflects overlapping shocks. Armed conflicts disrupt agricultural production and block transport corridors. Climate-driven droughts and floods reduce harvest yields in vulnerable regions. Fertilizer and fuel prices have risen sharply in recent years, increasing input costs for farmers and transportation costs for aid agencies. The cumulative effect is measurable. 318 million people now experience acute hunger, compared to roughly one-third of that figure half a decade ago. The escalation is not gradual, it is steep and sustained. At the same time, financial support has contracted. The World Food Programme's funding reportedly fell by about 40% in 2025. That reduction has forced what its leadership describes as severe prioritization decisions. In Afghanistan, food assistance funding has been cut in half. Aid distributions in Sudan have also been reduced amid a nearly 3-year civil war that has killed tens of thousands and displaced approximately 11 million people. In some regions, ration cuts directly affect widowed mothers and children, groups traditionally classified as high vulnerability. Security risks for aid workers have intensified. In South Sudan, a contractor working with the agency was recently killed amid ongoing violence. Humanitarian access corridors are shrinking as conflicts fragment territory and armed groups proliferate. Delivering assistance increasingly requires negotiations across multiple power centers, raising both cost and danger. Operational constraints therefore compound financial constraints, creating a dual pressure on response capacity. The political dimension is unavoidable. Following changes in US leadership, foreign aid allocations were significantly reduced, impacting humanitarian budgets worldwide. Because the United States contributes a substantial portion of global food aid financing, shifts in its appropriations reverberate across multiple agencies simultaneously. Other donor nations face fiscal pressures and competing domestic priorities, limiting their ability to compensate for shortfalls. The result is a structural funding gap at a moment of peak demand. Against this backdrop, technology leaders at the summit in India are promoting artificial intelligence as a transformative force. For humanitarian agencies, AI is not framed as a luxury, but as a cost efficiency mechanism. Data systems can analyze satellite imagery to predict crop failures before harvest seasons conclude. Machine learning models can optimize delivery routes to reduce fuel consumption and transit time. Advanced analytics can identify communities at highest risk of malnutrition using integrated datasets that combine climate indicators, market prices, and conflict mapping. The World Food Programme's data leadership indicates that AI tools may improve operational efficiency and predictive accuracy by 30 to 50%. In logistical systems that move millions of tons of food annually, even incremental percentage gains translate into substantial savings. When budgets shrink by 40%, efficiency gains become existential rather than incremental. Artificial intelligence, in this framework, is positioned as a force multiplier for constrained resources. Other agencies are experimenting with similar approaches. The International Fund for Agricultural Development is piloting AI-driven applications in Nigeria and Kenya to assist smallholder farmers. These tools provide guidance on planting schedules, soil management, and climate adaptation strategies. If scaled effectively, such systems could increase local production and reduce dependence on imported aid. Agricultural transformation, supported by digital platforms, may reduce vulnerability before crises escalate. Consider the first what-if scenario. What if funding continues to decline while conflict and climate shocks intensify? In that case, even optimized logistics cannot compensate for absolute resource shortages. Ration sizes would shrink further, geographic coverage would narrow, and mortality risks could increase in famine-prone regions. Migration flows toward more stable areas could rise, placing additional pressure on neighboring states and potentially altering political dynamics in host countries. Now consider the alternative. What if AI-driven efficiencies allow agencies to stretch diminished budgets significantly while donor contributions stabilize or recover? In that outcome, predictive systems might identify food crises earlier, enabling pre-positioning of supplies and faster response times. Reduced waste and improved targeting could preserve assistance for the most vulnerable populations. Technology would not eliminate hunger, but it could mitigate its severity and slow its expansion. The broader geopolitical implications extend beyond humanitarian metrics. Persistent hunger undermines governance structures, fuels armed recruitment, and weakens state legitimacy. Regions experiencing chronic food insecurity often become arenas for proxy competition among larger powers seeking influence. Conversely, effective relief operations reinforce international cooperation frameworks and reduce instability spillover. Food security therefore functions as both a humanitarian objective and a strategic stabilizer. As viewers assess this unfolding situation, the critical variables to monitor are clear: donor funding trajectories, the scale of AI deployment within humanitarian logistics, and the evolution of conflicts in key regions such as Sudan and South Sudan. Watch for measurable indicators, including changes in ration levels, expansion or contraction of beneficiary lists, and publicly reported efficiency gains tied to digital systems.